what I'm going to do is allow the front of the court to place on the record what's going on between the parties. That way we have a record of it. I've already read it, so including all 40 pages. Thank you. That was a nice lunchtime reading. But in any event, Miss Judy, if you care to place on the record what is going on between the parties, please.
Thank you. A friend of the court received a parenting time complaint from Mr. Engelmann for his week-long summer parenting time, which he indicates was supposed to be from August 4 of 2024 until August 11 of 2024. And he indicated he was denied his parenting time, stating that the child was not at their grandmother's home, which is where they were exchanging at 6 p.m. A joint meeting was scheduled in hopes of further clarifying the summer 2025 provision so that there was no room for ambiguity in reading the order. The order dated June 4, 2024 indicates that each party shall have 1 week of uninterrupted summer parenting time for the year of 2024. Now that isn't specific enough for a friend of the court to enforce, so we did schedule a joint meeting to clarify and help with the future dates here. And Mr. Engelmann indicated his preference to resolve the complaint was for a week of makeup parenting time to take place in January and for the summer 2026 summer parenting time to start effectively in 2025. As a reminder, the order does state that that is week on, week off starting in summer of 2026. It was his understanding that this would reduce the arguments between the parents, and he indicated that he gave notice of his intent for summer 2024 week on June 28, 2024. And Ms. Van Belkenberg indicated that it was her preference not to have any makeup time. So the child was sick during the time in question, and that she offered that he pick up the child a few days later, but that he had refused. I did let her know during our joint meeting that being sick is not a valid reason to withhold parenting time. She said that she was under the understanding that if there was a doctor's note involved, that it was a valid reason to withhold. I asked Ms. Van Belkenberg to point out the language within the order that said that that was appropriate to do, but she was not able to do so. And again, it was explained that this meeting was scheduled in an attempt to clarify future years, so there was not any ambiguity. And in response, there was some frustration from Mr. Engelmann with the system. He indicated there have been further instances where there's been non-compliance, but again, we only received the one complaint on the case. And so I did draft a proposed order to update that summer parenting time provision found in the June 4, 2024 order that indicates each parent shall have 3 non-consecutive weeks of uninterrupted parenting time for summer 2025. Now that is an update from the June 2024 order that says that in 2025, each parent shall have 2 weeks. So effectively giving him another week of time during that year. And then it did outline when that week was to start. So I did do Sunday at 6 p.m. until the following Sunday at 6 p.m., which goes along with their summer 2026 provision. Week on, week off was to start Sundays at 6 p.m. And then I did note that the provision for summer 2026 should be as previously ordered. So no changes with that. This was just solely for summer of 2025. I hope that answers your questions, but feel free to ask any more.
Well, I will ask Ms. Van Valkenburg, what is your input here?
I agreed with the recommendation that she put in.
Okay. Mr. Engelmann, what is your recommendation, sir? What's your input?
I still believe that we should move on to the 2026 parenting plan for summer, just like I said, to remove any ambiguity, to reduce any arguments, any kind of...
I partially agree with you, but we're here because of a parenting time show cause of the current court order. The court generally doesn't revise the orders. It's here to enforce the orders and then try and get you back on track. If you lose something, we try to tend to give you back what you lost. If I give you January, you're going to be in a school week, more than likely, which isn't what you lost. You lost vacation time. You lost time to actually spend the entire week because the kid doesn't have to go to school. So I would grant that we do that. I don't know about the 17 other complaints either. Here's the problem. With child support, it's easy to hold somebody in contempt because we have a computer monitoring it daily. Okay. Parenting time, we don't. The court never knows. The court presumes the court orders are being followed as to parenting time. The only time the court is alerted that there's been a change or that there's been a problem is if you play the part of the computer and tell us it didn't happen and why. Okay. Yeah, the child's sickness unfortunately does not negate parenting time. You may have partially understood that what normally happens is if something like that occurs, the law encourages the parties, and by the way, you can blame the Supreme Court of this state for saying that sickness does not stop parenting time. Because let's face it, each of you should take care of this child when the child's being a child. You don't have to put up with all the snotty noses, puking, and diarrhea, ma'am, all the time. She can take care of it too.
I know,
Okay?
but
I know.
she
But
does not know him very well.
And that's why the next thing I'm about to say is it's also
It was
presumed.
about her comfort, and I feel like I did the
Well,
right thing there.
if you let me finish, that's where I was getting to, which is that the law presumes that the two of you would talk and figure out what's best for the child. If the child would be more comfortable where the child is used to, please. But then the law presumes that the person losing time would get it back. And like I said, you get back what you lost. So it would have been another week in the summer. So you are correct to a certain extent, Lauren, but not to the full extent. So yeah, it's wise because there are times that the kid just feels uncomfortable and wants to be where they're going to be. Okay. So the law encourages both of you to arrange for that. But then the backing of that is, sorry, but he gets makeup time for the time he lost because that was not his fault. If he calls you and says, look, I've got to give up my time for that week, you get a gray area. It's a 50-50 whether he gets makeup time or not. Depends on why he would. Let's say he got laid up in the hospital that week. Of course, we would probably grant him makeup time. Car accidents happen. You slip and fall and break a leg. So, if the time schedule doesn't occur because of something that is not somebody's fault, they're not purposefully trying to stop it, we try to make sure that they get it back, which is what this order does. So I would agree with that. Now the question is, it seems like you guys don't have a specific pickup and drop off point. Is that the gist of what I'm getting?
No, he picks her up here.
Okay.
Every
It should be at the child's home when and if at all possible.
He picks her up here every week, but
Okay.
for the first 3 weekends that he was picking her up, he was picking her up on Saturday, and I was picking her up on Saturday, and then he was picking her up again. She wasn't doing overnight, so I was staying at my.
Well, and they should be overnights now, correct?
Yes, they are. But
okay, well then we're beyond that point, because if we can, we try to have the child picked up and dropped off at the respective homes just for the benefit of the child, so the child doesn't have to get strapped in a car seat, have to go down to a gas station.
Oh yeah, that's worse than every.
Yeah, well, I live in Portland, and God help us, that's technically quote unquote the midpoint between Grand Rapids and Lansing when we have to do all those. So anytime I go get gas, especially if I'm cutting the grass on a weekend, I see everybody exchanging all their kids. So luckily I don't remember any of them. It's never good if I remember you. Generally, that's not a good thing. But what I can tell you is this, just like, and so that both parties have this, just so I can explain, contempt goes both ways. In other words, like I said, child support's easy, parenting time's not so easy. But there are consequences to either. Either the orders are complied with or they're not. And if they're not, we will hold someone in contempt. On this one, I can't, because she did have a legitimate reason for having concerns. What it has to be is an intentional, I'm not doing this, which is why I said, if he can't do it because he breaks a leg or is in the hospital, I'm going to grant him makeup time. If he looks at you and says, look, and I just had this happen a few months ago where the guy decided, instead of taking his spring break with his daughter, he took off on a cruise with his current girlfriend. Yeah, guess what? I didn't give him makeup time. Okay. Choices are choices. I'm going to hold you to what the choice is and why. If you intentionally negate your parenting time, I'm not going to hold the other party in contempt. In this case, we have a sick child. So you're on the verge of contempt, but I'm not going to hold you this time. But if you ever,
it was a difficult decision.
If you ever intentionally withhold it, I will hold you in contempt.
I have never done that.
I understand. I'm just trying to explain this so that both of you are on the same footing. Okay. To understand that the court does back up its orders. Because I'm trying to explain it because I know he's frustrated because he said there have been other incidents which are not before the court.
Never.
I understand, but that was his concern and complaint. And because of that, I'm trying to tell both of you, no, we hold people's feet to the fire if we have to. But there are some out clauses. Like I said, I'm giving you some leeway, Lauren, because the child was sick. Thor, I want you to know that we are going to hold her if she intentionally withholds the child. Okay?
May I say something?
She has, so certainly you may.
Okay, when I had gone to pick up my daughter for my week of parenting time, her mother, Carla, told me that she called the police department to see if they could enforce the parenting time to take place. And I didn't believe her, so I called the police department to ask the same thing. And they told me the same thing
It depends.
verbatim.
It depends on your police officers. A lot of them do not like to
Right.
get involved in domestic because they tend to get killed more often in domestic than they do in criminal. So they don't like to
And
step in place. So some departments will do it, some departments will not. It depends on your local police department.
and I understand that, but
My
that
mother's right
shows
here
me
if you
that it
want
was
to ask
pretty
her about
bad.
Okay, I'm done. I'm giving him his makeup time. I'm entering the front of the court recommendation. And we're not going to get into a he said, she said. Look, folks, the second you start slinging mud at each other, it does nobody any good. Okay, all we do is go down a rabbit hole and we dig each other deeper into a hole, and the things that you say cannot be unsaid. I'm going to presume both of you are doing this in the best interest of this child. And I'm going to presume that neither one of you has intentionally violated a court order at this time. If I ever find somebody intentionally violated, I will be holding you in contempt. The rest of the orders remain in full force and effect, which means in 2026, this does go to, I believe, week on, week off. Okay? So have a good afternoon. Good luck. With that explanation, I'm hoping you guys can move on. All right? Make sure that the parenting time happens in accordance with the court order. Have a good day. And I'm going to grant the front of the court's